The lecture hall of the Orion Galactic Academy rose like a stone canyon, with curved walls of metal and glass that reflected the cold light of distant stars. Seats were carved wide and tall to fit bodies of many shapes. Long tails curled over edges. Heavy claws rested on desks made of reinforced alloy. Some students breathed thin mist. Others hummed softly as they thought, sing. Voices echoed in tones that shook the air, and in the middle of all of them sat one human. Her name was Lyra Vale. She looked small in the oversized seat, her boots barely touching the floor. Her uniform was plain gray, without decorations or clan marks. Her dark hair was tied back simply. Her posture was straight, calm, almost too calm, as if she had learned long ago that reacting only made things worse. Around her, eyes watched it. Some were curious, most were amused. Humans were new to the academy, new to the wider galaxy. Barely 2 centuries of faster-than-light travel, barely 1 century of contact with other species. In galactic terms, humanity was a child that had wandered into a council of elders, and elders did not like children in their halls. A low chuckle rolled from the back row. It came from a broad-scaled student with 4 arms and a wide jaw. His name was Barak. He leaned toward his neighbor and spoke loudly enough for many to hear. "They really sent one," he said. "Just one." His neighbor clicked in agreement. "I thought it was a rumor. A joke." Several heads turned toward Lyra. She kept her eyes forward, focused on the central platform where the instructor had not yet arrived. "Hey!" Her hands were folded neatly on the desk. On her right hand she wore a dark glove, tight at the wrist. Varric did not stop. "Look at her," he said. No armor plates, no neural crest, no natural weapons. How did her kind even survive long enough to reach space? Soft laughter spread through the hall. Not all joined, but enough. Lyra's face did not change. She had heard worse. When humanity first joined the Galactic Compact, there had been polite smiles and careful words. After that came jokes, then doubts, then quiet testing. Humans were watched closely, measured, compared, always found lacking. The Academy was where the future commanders, diplomats, and strategists of the galaxy were trained. Admission alone was supposed to mean something, but for Lyra, it meant being alone in a crowd. A tall figure entered the hall, and the noise slowly faded. The instructor moved with heavy steps, metal limbs clicking softly against the floor. His name was Instructor Halden. His species was old, older than many star systems had been charted. His eyes were pale and sharp. He looked over the class in silence. "Take your seats," he said. They already had, but the command carried weight. Spines straightened, tails stilled, his gaze paused, just for a moment, on Lyra. Then he began. "This course is not about equations or engines," Halden said. "It is about legacy, about what your people bring with them into the future. The galaxy does not care about your intentions, only about your history." That last word lingered. Several students glanced again at Lyra. Varric smiled, showing too many teeth. Halden continued. "Over the next cycle, you will be evaluated not as individuals, but as representatives. You will speak for your species. You will defend its place." A ripple of interest moved through the hall. "This will begin today." Now the room was fully awake. Halden gestured, and a large holographic display formed above the platform. Symbols of many species appeared, rotating slowly. Some glowed brighter than others. "These are the founding powers of the Compact," Halden said. "These are the ones who shaped galactic law through force, sacrifice, or survival." The human symbol was not there. No one seemed surprised. Varric raised one of his hands. "Instructor," he said, voice smooth and confident. "Will we also be discussing associate members?" A few snickers followed. Halden's eyes narrowed slightly. "All members," he replied, "including those still proving themselves." Varric nodded. Then perhaps the human cadet would like to begin. The silence that followed was sharp. Lyra felt dozens of eyes turned fully toward her now. Some curious, some mocking, some openly hostile. Halden looked at her. Cadet Vale, he said. Would you like to speak? Lyra stood. The seat was so large that standing felt like climbing out of a pit. She smoothed her uniform once and faced the room. Her voice, when she spoke, was clear but quiet. What would you like me to say, instructor? Varric answered before Halden could. Tell us, he said, why your kind belongs here. More laughter. Lyra looked at him. She did not glare. She did not smile. We are here because we were invited, she said. That only made it worse. Varric leaned forward. Invited out of kindness, he said. Or pity. A clicking sound of agreement echoed from another section. A tall, feathered student tilted her head. Your worlds have had interstellar travel for less time than some of us spend in early training, she said. What legacy could you possibly have? Lyra took a slow breath. She had prepared for questions like this. She had practiced answers. Strong answers. Proud answers. But she also knew something they did not. Some truths were not meant to be spoken lightly. Our legacy is survival, Lyra said carefully. Varric laughed openly now. That is everyone's legacy, he said. You are not special for staying alive. No, Lyra replied. But the way we stayed alive matters. Halden watched closely. He did not interrupt. And how is that? Varric asked. Lyra paused. Her right hand shifted slightly on the desk. The glove creased. We adapt, she said, quickly. Sometimes badly, sometimes at great cost. Still vague, Varric said. You speak like a politician. A few students nodded. Lyra felt heat rise in her chest, but she kept her voice steady. We speak like survivors. That word again. Varric stood towering over her even from several steps away. Survivors of what? He demanded. You have faced no galaxy-wide extinction, no ancient wars, no system purges. You arrived after the hard times. That was when Halden raised a hand. Enough, the instructor said. But the damage was done. Varric spread his arms. Let her answer, he said, if she can. Lyra looked around the room. She saw disbelief. She saw certainty. She saw minds already closed. She also saw something else. Fear of being wrong. Our history is short, she said. Yes. And violent. Yes, we fought each other before we ever left our world. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times. Still not impressive, someone muttered. But when we finally looked outward, Lyra continued, we did not expect welcome. Varric tilted his head. And yet you received it. Eventually, Lyra said, after we proved we could endure. She stopped there. Halden studied her. Is that all? He asked. Lyra met his gaze. For now, Varric snorted. That is it? Survival and endurance? You hide behind empty words. He pointed suddenly at her hands. What is that? Lyra's breath caught. The glove. She had forgotten how sharp alien eyes could be. What are you hiding? Varric pressed. Some human symbol? Some lucky charm? Several students leaned forward. Lyra slowly curled her fingers. It is nothing for this discussion, she said. That is not your choice, Varric replied. If you represent your species, then everything about you is relevant. Halden hesitated. For a long moment, the instructor said nothing. Then he nodded once. Cadet Vale, he said. You will answer questions fully. This is an academy, not a shelter. Yuja felt a chill. She looked down at her gloved hand. The fabric was thin, but it felt heavy now. This is not a symbol of pride, she said quietly. Varric smiled. Even better. Slowly, Lyra reached for the edge of the glove. The room leaned in. But she stopped. Her fingers trembled just slightly. There are things, she said, that once shown cannot be unseen. Varrock laughed again, but the sound was sharper now. You sound afraid. Lyra lifted her eyes. No, she said. I sound careful. The instructor frowned. Cadet, he said, remove the glove. The command echoed through the hall. Lyra knew this moment would come one day. She had hoped it would not be here. Not like this. But the galaxy did not wait for comfort. She slid the glove off her hand. The air changed. At first, no one spoke. Some did not understand what they were seeing. Dark lines spread across the back of her hand and wrist, forming shapes that were too precise to be natural. The markings were black and silver, faintly reflective, as if etched into her skin with liquid metal. They were not still. They shifted slowly, almost breathing. A low murmur rose. One student gasped. Another took a step back. Instructor Halden froze. That, he said slowly, is not possible. Lyra lowered her hand slightly, but did not hide it. It exists, she said. Varrick's smile was gone. He stared at the markings, his eyes wide. That mark, he whispered. It was classified. Destroyed. It was buried, Lyra corrected. Not destroyed. The room was silent now. No laughter, no whispers. Only the quiet hum of the station and the faint, living movement of the tattoo on a human hand. And for the first time since she had entered the academy, Lyra Vale was no longer invisible. The hall stayed quiet, but the tension was heavy, pressing against every wall and echoing off every metal surface. Lyra's hand hung in the air, the tattoo alive and shifting, catching the dim light from the observation windows. Every student's eyes were fixed on her, some in awe, some in fear, some still unsure if it was a trick. Even Instructor Halden leaned slightly forward, studying the human with more curiosity than he had ever shown before. Varrick's posture changed. His forearms, which had been folded confidently across his chest, twitched nervously. The laughter that had once followed his words was gone. He leaned closer to another student, whispering something in a sharp, clicking tone, but it was clear he was uncertain. The human had done something none of them had expected. None of them had imagined the story behind a single human cadet could be written in markings that moved like living steel. "Explain it," Halden said, his voice steady but demanding. "Do not speak in riddles, Cadet Vale. Every mark, every symbol has meaning. You cannot hide behind obscurity." Lyra's eyes scanned the room. Her gaze held a calm intensity that silenced any further whispers. "This is not just a mark," she said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "It represents authority. Authority over things most of you believe are gone. Things humanity never spoke about because it is not our way to brag." A student with scales shimmering like liquid bronze hissed softly, stepping back. "Authority? Over what? Weapons! Ships? Commands?" "Yes," Lyra replied. "Over remnants of a time when humanity had to fight, not for glory, but to survive, to endure, to rise from destruction without asking permission from the galaxy." Varrick's multiple eyes narrowed. "You are claiming control over fleets? War machines? That cannot be. They were all decommissioned, dismantled, erased." "You are mistaken," Lyra said. She lifted her hand slightly higher, letting the faint light glint off the shifting black and silver patterns. "They were hidden, yes. Buried. Waiting. Not destroyed. And the tattoo is a key, a signal, a mark of command." The room's energy shifted again. Some students recoiled, unable to believe it. Until the next day, others leaned forward, curiosity stronger than fear. Whispers spread like static electricity across the hall, mixing with the low hum of the station's core. A feathered student on the left murmured, "I've read old reports, fragments of them. Thought they were myths." Lyra held her ground. Myths are only myths until someone proves them real. Humanity does not hide because it is weak. It hides because it survives. Varrick's claws tapped nervously against his desk. "Show us," he demanded. Prove this isn't just talk. Show the mark's power, human. Halden's eyes darkened. Enough, Varric! You are testing patience. Cadet Vale, demonstration or explanation only. The Academy is not a battlefield. Keep control of what you reveal. Lyra nodded once. She placed her hand on the metallic surface of the desk. It was a simple action, but the effect was immediate. Lines of light, small at first, spread from her hand across the desk, connecting with the hall's central console. Students gasped as the system hummed, ancient circuits responding to a human mark. The desk, designed for teaching and simulations, blinked to life in ways it hadn't in centuries. Alarms were silent, but signals moved across channels long forgotten, sending pulses into deep space. Cadet, Halden said, leaning closer, what are you doing? Confirming history, Lyra replied calmly. Not mine, humanity's. What we endured to reach this moment. A wave of realization began to ripple through the students. The symbols on her hand, which had seemed like an artistic decoration at first, were functional. Commanding systems thought lost, networks of dormant satellites, communication arrays, even automated defense platforms that had not answered to anyone for decades were now awake, acknowledging the human signal. The air vibrated with unspoken fear. Varric took a step back, suddenly smaller than his size, his confidence fading like mist. Impossible, he said. All of it. How? It is not impossible, Lyra said, keeping her voice even. It is just something you were not meant to see. Humanity learned to survive when no one was watching. Our marks, our codes, our fleets, hidden. We never needed approval. And now, here I am, the one who holds that knowledge. Some students shifted uneasily. A student with horns curved back in disbelief, whispering, We laughed at her. We mocked her. And she was always more. Halden stood taller, realizing the classroom had changed. What was a simple evaluation had turned into something far more dangerous. Cadet Vale, he said carefully, deactivate. That is enough for now. The Academy must not be exposed to active fleets without permission. You understand the consequences? Lyra nodded. She withdrew her hand slowly, the glowing lines fading but leaving the tattoo still visible, still alive in a way that promised more. I understand, she said. But the warning has been made. Humanity is not weak. We were never weak. The hall remained silent. Some students stared at her with respect, others with fear. Varric stared longer than the rest, his pride battered and broken. He had mocked her, dismissed her, and now the truth was undeniable. She had shown something no other human had the authority or courage to reveal. A murmur rose again, quieter now, hesitant. Students who had previously laughed began asking questions, carefully, testing the limits of what they could believe. Cadet Vale, a student whispered from the back, how many of your assets are active? Lyra smiled faintly, a calm, knowing expression. Enough to remind the galaxy not to underestimate humans. Enough to remind them that survival is not a game, and endurance is not luck. Every mark tells a story. Every fleet, every network, every hidden protocol is a chapter of what humanity has endured. Halden's gaze softened slightly, though it carried the weight of centuries. You have done more than prove your people's place here. You have reminded us all that history cannot be erased. But remember, Cadet Vale, with such power comes responsibility. We must ensure control, restraint. That is why the Academy exists. Lyra nodded. She returned her hand to her lap, allowing the living tattoo to flow beneath her skin, hidden again from casual view. I am aware of responsibility, she said. Humanity survives because we know when to act and when to wait. Nothing more, nothing less. Varric finally lowered his gaze. He was quiet, not because he accepted her words fully, but because he understood that the human in front of him had changed the balance of perception. The room was no longer filled with one small human among giants. The room was filled with one human who had shown the galaxy that she carried history, authority, and proof of survival in her very skin. For the first time, Lyra felt the weight of recognition. Not the shallow recognition of peers impressed by words alone, but the deeper recognition of beings who now understood that underestimating her, or her species, could be catastrophic. She had entered the academy as a small, almost invisible presence, and now she was something far more dumb. The session ended with Halden signaling the students to disperse. Some left cautiously, some with lingering fear, others with curiosity. Varric lingered, watching Lyra pack her things. His thoughts were loud and tangled. Pride, anger, fear, all mixed with the realization that he had been wrong. "Cadet Vale," Halden said quietly, "this is only the beginning. You have made a statement today, but statements are not enough in the galaxy. You will be tested further." "I understand, instructor," Lyra said. She tucked the glove back into her bag, knowing it would never fully hide the power beneath it. The mark was alive, and so was the history it represented. As she walked out of the hall, the hum of distant stations and silent fleets seemed to echo behind her. The Academy, the galaxy, even Varric would remember this moment. And humanity, though still small in numbers and time, had just reminded everyone in one room why it could never be mocked again. The Academy corridors were quieter than usual after the session. The students moved slowly, their conversations hushed and careful. Everyone who had been in the hall that day seemed to carry a new weight, a mixture of curiosity, fear, and respect. Some glanced at Lyra as she walked by, hesitant to approach. Some whispered to each other, trying to understand what they had seen, what they had felt. Lyra moved steadily, her posture calm, her eyes scanning the metallic walls and displays. She had experienced attention before, but never like this. The marks on her hand, now hidden beneath a glove, still pulsed faintly beneath her skin. They reminded her that the past she carried was not gone. It was alive, waiting for the right moment. She entered the small common room reserved for cadets and sat at a table alone. Her backpack was beside her, the glove she had removed from her hand resting on top. She took it off entirely and stared at her hand for a long moment, watching the tattoo move slightly beneath the skin, shifting and adjusting like a living map. It was a reminder of the trials humanity had survived, the silent power they had developed when no one was watching. A quiet sound alerted her to someone entering. She looked up to see Miri, a student with translucent skin and eyes that reflected every color of the spectrum. Miri had been in the hall that day, sitting a few rows away from Lyra. Her expression was cautious, curious, but not hostile. You are not like the others," Miri said softly, taking a seat across from Lyra. "I mean, none of us expected that." You have something none of us understand." Lyra nodded slowly. "It is not meant for show," she said. "It is a tool, a warning. Humanity survives because we prepare, because we adapt. We do not brag. We do not ask for attention. But when it is forced upon us, we respond." "And the others? They laughed, mocked you." "They will not mock again," Lyra said simply. "They know now that humans are not weak. They know that our history is not short or simple. They just do not understand it yet." Miri nodded. "Do you think they will try to test you further, show you off to others?" "They might," Lyra said. "The galaxy has a way of trying to measure those it does not understand. But I am ready." Outside the common room, the hallways carried different sounds. A few cadets whispered behind closed doors. Others hurried past, trying to avoid being seen. Rumors were spreading faster than anyone could control. By the time Lyra returned to her quarters, she knew that word of her hand, of the marks and the power behind them, had already reached several other wings of the Academy. She sat at her desk and pulled up her personal interface, scanning reports of distant stations and inactive fleets. The marks on her hand were a command link, subtle but powerful. Even though she had not activated anything intentionally, the response from long-dormant systems was immediate. Lines of light blinked across the display, small indicators of machinery waking from silence. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime, a message from Instructor Halden. Cadet Vale. You have demonstrated knowledge and capability far beyond your peers. The session today has changed the classroom dynamic. We must discuss next steps privately. Report to my office in one standard cycle. Halden Lyra read the message carefully. She understood that this was not a simple meeting. The instructor had seen enough to realize that her presence carried weight. She packed her things and left for the office, her steps quiet, her mind alert. The corridors were nearly empty. She passed groups of students who avoided eye contact. Varek was nowhere to be seen, though she could sense his attention somewhere nearby. The academy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. Halden's office was large, filled with ancient artifacts, old displays, and maps of galactic sectors. The instructor stood as she entered, his expression neutral but his eyes calculating it. Cadet Vale, he said, motioning for her to sit. Today, you have proven something remarkable. Not just skill, not just endurance, but the very essence of what your species can do. Tell me, how did you come to possess the mark? It is part of an old tradition, she said, a survival protocol from Earth's past. It is given to those who have endured trials that most species would consider extreme, impossible. It connects the bearer to resources, networks, and fleets that were hidden for survival purposes. It is not a weapon for glory. It is a tool for survival. Halden listened carefully, nodding occasionally. And you control this link? Yes, she said, through the tattoo. It is biological and technological. Integrated. Ancient human systems respond to it. Even now, many fleets and stations are online because they recognize it. Halden's eyes widened slightly. You realize what this means? I do, Lyra said. It is why I am careful. The galaxy must not be disrupted unnecessarily. But those who mock or underestimate humanity must understand what we represent. Halden leaned back, his hands clasped together. You have changed the perception of your peers. Some will fear you, some will respect you. Some may even try to manipulate you to gain access to what you control. I am aware, Lyra said. I am prepared. The instructor studied her for a long moment. Humanity has always survived in silence. You carry that silence now, but also the weight of its consequences. Be careful, Cadet Vale. You are no longer just a student. You are a representative of a force that many thought extinguished. I understand, she said, keeping her voice calm, steady. As she left the office, the corridors seemed quieter still. The academy itself had changed. Rumors of her hand, of the tattoo, and the fleets responding to it were spreading. Some students whispered in fear, others in admiration. Varek was finally visible, lingering at the end of a hallway, his confidence shaken, his eyes fixed on her. Lyra ignored him. Her focus was forward, on her studies, on the preparation she always maintained. She knew the galaxy was watching. She knew the marks on her hand were more than symbols. They were a reminder of the history she carried and the power that lay dormant in humanity's survival. In the following days, Lyra continued her studies with quiet diligence. Other students approached her cautiously, some with questions, some with offers of friendship, others with veiled threats. She answered only what was necessary, revealing little, keeping the full extent of her control a secret. Every interaction reminded her that perception was as important as power. By the end of the cycle, the academy had shifted subtly. The mocking laughter that once followed humans was gone. A cautious respect had taken its place. Students who had once dismissed her as insignificant now measured their words. Even Varek avoided direct confrontation, watching her from a distance, unsettled by the knowledge that she held more than anyone could understand. Lyra's hand remained her secret weapon. Beneath the skin, the tattoo shifted, pulsed, and waited. Every line told a story of survival, every movement a reminder of the quiet power humanity wielded, and in that silence she prepared. The galaxy might never fully understand, but they would learn that humans were never weak, only patient, and that patience could carry a species through wars, extinction, and centuries of doubt. The quiet moments in her quarters, the calculated responses to questions, and the careful observation of her peers became her daily routine. She did not boast. She did not challenge directly, but every look, every action, and every word carried the weight of centuries of survival. Those who paid attention began to understand that Lyra Vale was not just another cadet. She was a symbol of humanity's endurance, and her hand, marked with a living tattoo, was a reminder that even a single human could shift the perception of an entire academy, a galaxy, and perhaps the course of history. The academy's training grounds were vast, stretching across multiple decks with artificial gravity fields and simulated terrains. Lyra moved among the other cadets, her steps quiet but confident. Even during physical exercises and tactical drills, she drew attention. Not because she was faster or stronger than the others, but because of what had been revealed. The living tattoo on her hand, the power it represented, and the quiet authority she carried without boast or anger. Varek stayed at a distance, his multiple eyes tracking her movements. He was no longer mocking, but a mixture of caution and resentment colored his every glance. Other students whispered as she passed, some curious, some fearful. She ignored them, focusing on her training, her mind always alert to signals, patterns, and responses. The tattoo beneath her skin was dormant now, but it never rested. It pulsed faintly, reminding her that it was connected to something larger, something the galaxy thought had vanished. During one exercise, Halden called the students together. They gathered in a wide circle, each representing their species, while Halden explained the next phase, a simulation that tested not just skill but strategy, endurance, and decision-making under pressure. The challenge would be difficult, designed to stretch every cadet beyond their comfort zone. Today, Halden said, you will work in mixed-species squads. You will face scenarios that require cooperation, adaptability, and leadership. Any mistake can result in failure for your team. Lyra was paired with 3 other cadets, Miri, who had approached her in the common room, Jorvik, a heavily armored reptilian, and Fane, a small, fast-winged cadet with sharp eyes. Their task was to infiltrate a simulated enemy base, capture a control point, and extract critical data before the opposing team. As the simulation began, Lyra observed her squad carefully. Each had strengths and weaknesses. Jorvik was strong and resilient, but slow to adapt. Fane was fast and perceptive, but easily startled. Miri was steady, smart, but inexperienced in combat situations. Lyra understood instinctively how to coordinate them. She issued calm instructions, always observing, never raising her voice unnecessarily. Her hands moved in subtle gestures, guiding and correcting. Her squad followed her without question. They did not mock her. They did not hesitate. They trusted her judgment. The simulation grew intense. The opposing team, a mix of older, experienced cadets, pressed hard. They expected human weakness. They had underestimated Lyra. Every trap they set, every ambush they prepared, was countered by her anticipation and the quiet efficiency of her commands. The squad moved as a single unit, coordinated and precise, striking where the enemy did not expect and retreating before they could react. Varek watched from the observation deck, his expression darkening. The human had outmaneuvered cadets who had trained for decades. He could see it, feel it, yet he could not comprehend how a species so young could have such instinct, such control. Even Halden, standing beside him, remained silent, observing, taking note. The performance was remarkable, not just in execution, but in the calm authority the human cadet wielded. As the simulation ended, the opposing team was routed, their control point captured without serious loss. Lyra's squad emerged from the simulation zone unscathed, efficient, and coordinated. The other cadets stared, some in disbelief, others in awe. Miri looked at Lyra with admiration, whispering, "I've never seen anyone lead like that." Lyra simply nodded. Leadership was not about pride or show. It was about survival, efficiency, and understanding the tools and people at one's disposal. She had demonstrated that today, and the Academy had noticed. Later, as cadets returned to their quarters, Varric confronted her. "Human," he said, his tone carefully neutral. "How did you— It makes no sense. You are faster in thought than most of us, smarter, more precise. How?" Lyra looked at him calmly. "Experience," she said. "We humans survive by observing, learning, and adapting. That is why we endure when others fail. You see only what you think is immediate. We see patterns, connections, and consequences. That is all." Varric's eyes narrowed. "Patterns and consequences. Is that all? You carry more than that in your hand, don't you?" The tattoo beneath her glove pulsed faintly, as if acknowledging the question. Lyra did not respond directly. Instead, she said, "There are things that once revealed cannot be taken back. I am careful to reveal only what is necessary. Understanding comes in time." He hesitated, realizing that any challenge now carried more risk than he had imagined. Lyra was no longer a simple human cadet. She was a force that could not be underestimated. His pride faltered, replaced by a cautious respect that he struggled to accept. That evening, Lyra returned to her quarters, sitting quietly and reviewing the simulation. Her mind analyzed every move, every decision, every outcome. Even in her solitude, she remained alert. The Academy had seen only a fraction of what she could do. Yet, the tattoo, alive beneath her skin, reminded her that humanity's survival had been hard-earned and that power had to be used wisely. Every system, every fleet, every dormant resource she controlled had its place. One wrong action could awaken attention she did not want. A chime sounded on her console. A message from Halden. "Cadet Vale, your performance today has exceeded expectations. You are demonstrating skills far beyond typical cadets. Prepare for the next evaluation. We will discuss this privately." Lyra read the message and nodded. She understood the unspoken warning. The galaxy would continue to test her, to see if humans were truly capable of what they claimed. She was ready. She always had been. Her past, her species, and the mark on her hand were her constant reminders. The Academy might test her skill, strategy, and intelligence, but the tattoo and what it represented were beyond test and observation. They were history alive, proof of endurance and survival. The following days passed in a careful rhythm. Lyra continued her training, always aware of eyes upon her, always observing others. Some cadets approached her, seeking guidance or favor, some with curiosity, others with subtle attempts at manipulation. She responded politely, with no arrogance, revealing only what was necessary. The power she carried was not for display. It was a quiet warning, a reminder of humanity's survival and patient strategy. Varric remained distant, watching from afar. His pride had been wounded, his assumptions shattered. He began to understand that this human, small and seemingly fragile, held something he could not match. Not skill, not strength, not speed. Something deeper, rooted in history, endurance, and a connection to resources the galaxy had believed lost. It unsettled him, and yet he could not deny the truth he now saw. Lyra spent long hours analyzing simulations, reviewing tactics, and quietly observing the Academy's systems. The tattoo on her hand pulsed faintly, a living reminder that humanity's legacy was still active, still present, and still influential. She knew the galaxy would continue to underestimate her species. That was fine. Patience was humanity's strength. Endurance was its power. And she carried both in a hand that now no one would dare mock again. By the end of the week, the Academy had shifted in subtle ways. Cadets approached her with caution. Conversations included her perspective, and even instructors consulted her on tactical questions. Respect had replaced mockery, wariness had replaced laughter, and the quiet authority she carried grew stronger. Lyra Vale, the human cadet with the living tattoo, had changed the Academy. She had shown that a species so young in galactic terms could command respect, and that survival, endurance, and careful strategy were powers more formidable than any single weapon. As she prepared for the next evaluation, Lyra understood one thing clearly. The galaxy had been warned, not through words, but through action, and the quiet pulse beneath her skin was a reminder that humanity's legacy was alive, waiting, and patient. It was a lesson the galaxy would never forget. The early morning lights of the academy were soft, pale, and quiet. Lyra walked through the halls, her steps steady and calm. The corridors were empty except for a few cadets who moved quickly, whispering among themselves. Even in silence, the tension lingered from the previous weeks. Lyra knew that what she had revealed about humanity and her tattoo had reached far beyond the classrooms and training halls. Rumors traveled fast, and her presence was no longer unnoticed. She arrived at the simulation deck for the day's evaluation. Today would not be just another tactical test. The instructor, Halden, had made it clear that this evaluation would measure influence, strategy, and control over forces that went beyond the classroom. Lyra could feel the weight of expectation not just from the instructors, but from the galaxy itself. She had to show restraint, intelligence, and precise control. The briefing room was filled with holographic maps of sectors, fleets, and planetary systems. Teams were assigned, and Lyra's group included Miri, Jorvik, Fane, and 2 new cadets she had not worked with before. They were from different species, each with their own abilities and limitations. Her task was to coordinate them, lead the mission, and demonstrate that humans were capable of more than the galaxy expected. The mission was a complex one. Simulated fleets of unknown origin had attacked a cluster of outposts. Lyra's squad had to defend, redirect resources, and counterattack while maintaining control over their communication networks. Failure could mean simulated losses and a mark against their evaluation. Lyra studied the holographic display carefully, noting the positions, movements, and potential strategies of the opposing forces. Her mind worked methodically, analyzing, predicting, and planning. As the simulation began, Lyra guided her team with quiet authority. Miri followed her instructions precisely. Jorvik moved with strength and resilience, Fane acted with speed and precision, and the new cadets learned quickly, following the patterns Lyra had established. The opposing team tried to exploit weaknesses, assuming humans were slow to react. Lyra anticipated every move, countering each trap with strategic placements, using decoys and coordinating strikes that were swift and effective. The tattoo beneath her glove pulsed faintly. She did not activate it fully, but its presence connected to dormant networks of intelligence and information long forgotten by the galaxy. Sensors, satellites, and even inactive defense platforms responded subtly to her signals, giving her squad an unseen advantage. The opposing team struggled to adjust, their strategies faltering against an unexpected level of coordination and awareness. From the observation deck, Halden watched closely. He had seen Lyra's abilities before, but today she was not only leading her squad, she was managing multiple layers of strategy that extended beyond the simulation. He noted the subtle shifts in the holographic indicators, the precise timing of every action, and the calm efficiency with which she maintained control. This was beyond skill. It was instinct, experience, and authority in perfect balance. Varric watched as well, hidden behind the observation console. His pride had been wounded before, but now he was confronted with undeniable proof. The human cadet, small, seemingly fragile, was orchestrating forces that outmaneuvered even seasoned cadets. Every action, every decision carried weight. Varric could not hide his astonishment. He had underestimated her, and he realized how dangerous assumptions could be. The simulation intensified. Opposing forces adapted, trying to overwhelm Lyra's squad. They launched counterattacks, attempting to break formations and seize key points. Lyra remained calm. She directed her team precisely, using the environment, timing, and subtle signals to maintain control. The tattoo pulsed again, not visible to others, reinforcing the connections to systems that had been dormant, ensuring that her squad had access to information and support that gave them a distinct advantage. By the final phase of the simulation, Lyra's squad had captured all strategic points and neutralized the opposing forces. The holographic displays confirmed that her commands had been executed flawlessly. There were no casualties, no errors, only efficiency and precise coordination. The silence in the briefing room was heavy. Cadets and instructors alike stared at the display, some in disbelief, others in awe. Halden spoke, his voice measured. Cadet Vale, your performance today has not only exceeded expectations, it has set a new standard. Your ability to control, coordinate, and adapt demonstrates a level of authority that few species achieve in centuries. You have proven that humans are capable of more than the galaxy expects. Lyra inclined her head slightly, her expression calm. She had not sought recognition, only to perform to the best of her ability. She understood the power she carried and the responsibility it entailed. The tattoo was more than a mark. It was a reminder of humanity's survival and the hidden strength that had carried them through impossible challenges. Varric remained silent. He had learned a lesson in humility and caution. The human cadet was no longer someone to underestimate. He could see now that she was a force in her own right, one that could influence outcomes far beyond the classroom. After the evaluation, Lyra returned to her quarters. She removed her glove and examined the tattoo beneath her skin. It shifted slightly, almost as if it acknowledged the events of the day. She understood that this was only the beginning. The galaxy would continue to test her, to challenge humanity, and to underestimate their capabilities. But Lyra was prepared. She had trained for this. She had learned the value of patience, the importance of careful observation, and the strength of restraint. In the following days, news of her performance spread quietly among the academy. Cadets approached her with caution, some seeking guidance, others with curiosity. Even instructors consulted her for insights and perspectives. Respect had replaced mockery. Fear had replaced laughter. Lyra's presence had altered the dynamics of the academy. Not through arrogance, but through competence, calm authority, and the quiet reminder of the tattoo beneath her skin. Every moment, every interaction, was an exercise in patience and observation. Lyra continued to train, to study, and to prepare for the inevitable challenges ahead. She understood that the galaxy would not easily accept humans as equals, but she also knew that perception could be shifted, that authority could be demonstrated, and that survival was a force more powerful than weapons. By the end of the cycle, the academy had changed subtly but profoundly. Students approached her with respect, conversations included her perspective, and even instructors considered her insights seriously. Ella Vale, the human cadet with the living tattoo, had proven that her species was not to be mocked, that their history was not short or weak, and that patience and endurance could command more attention than force alone. As she prepared for the next phase of training, Lyra understood clearly that the galaxy had been warned. Her hand marked with living history was a reminder that humans had survived, endured, and waited. And the quiet pulse beneath her skin was a message: underestimate humanity at your own peril. The academy's main hall was quiet in the early hours. Lyra walked through the corridors, her uniform neat and her steps measured. The halls were filled with echoes of activity, but today there was a subtle difference. The whispers of cadets, the careful glances, the quiet respect, it all centered on her. Lyra understood the weight of what she carried, not just in the tattoo on her hand, but in the perception she had shaped among the academy's students and instructors. She arrived at the briefing chamber, where Halden was already present, reviewing holographic data. His expression was unreadable, but Lyra knew him well enough to sense the anticipation behind his calm demeanor. Today's evaluation would test not just her skills or intelligence, but her judgment and restraint. The simulation set before her would involve live coordination with remote fleets and stations, a challenge that required precision, focus, and trust in her abilities. As she entered, Halden spoke. Cadet Vale, today's exercise will demonstrate your ability to manage resources, personnel, and strategy on multiple levels simultaneously. You will coordinate a mission that spans sectors and involves assets that have been dormant for decades. Success is required. Failure will have consequences. Lyra nodded, her mind already running through potential strategies. She studied the holographic map, noting positions, supply lines, communication networks, and enemy movements. The challenge was enormous, but not beyond her. She knew the strength of patience, the value of observation, and the importance of timing. Every decision would ripple across sectors. Every command had weight. Her team was assembled: Miri, steady and intelligent; Jorvik, strong and disciplined; Fane, fast and perceptive; and two new cadets whose abilities were less proven but adaptable. Lyra assigned tasks quietly, her instructions precise, her voice calm. Her hand, tattoo concealed beneath a glove, pulsed faintly beneath the skin, a silent connection to dormant systems waiting to respond. The simulation began. Enemy forces engaged immediately, attempting to overwhelm Lyra's squad. They underestimated the human, assuming predictability, weakness, or hesitation. Lyra anticipated every maneuver. Her squad moved in sync, executing her commands flawlessly. Lyra's awareness extended beyond the immediate battlefield. The tattoo, subtle but alive, connected her to information streams, dormant stations, and automated fleets. She did not rely on them fully, only enough to maintain strategic advantage without drawing unnecessary attention. From the observation deck, Halden monitored the operation with keen interest. He noted the precision, the calm authority, and the ability to balance multiple factors at once. This was leadership in its purest form, a quiet strength that did not demand recognition but commanded respect. Lyra's decisions were deliberate, measured, and efficient. Varek watched from a distance, his pride wounded but his mind alert. He had underestimated humans before, but today he saw undeniable evidence of capability. The cadet, small and seemingly fragile, orchestrated forces with a level of coordination that defied expectations. He could not comprehend the depth of experience or instinct that guided her choices. The simulation intensified. Enemy forces adapted, launching counterattacks designed to test the human's judgment. Lyra responded with calm efficiency. She adjusted positions, redirected resources, and anticipated moves before they happened. Her team executed orders with precision. Every element, from individual cadets to distant systems, worked in harmony. The simulation concluded with complete success. Enemy forces neutralized, objectives achieved, and no casualties sustained. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the soft hum of the systems. Halden spoke, his voice steady but filled with meaning. Cadet Vale, your performance today is exemplary. You have demonstrated not only tactical skill, but judgment, coordination, and leadership that far exceeds expectations. You have proven that humans are capable of far more than the galaxy has recognized. Your control, restraint, and understanding set a standard for all. Lyra lowered her hand slightly, feeling the tattoo beneath the skin pulse faintly. It was alive, a constant reminder of humanity's endurance, history, and patient strategy. She had not sought recognition, but her actions had made an impact. The Academy, her peers, and instructors would remember today. Varek finally approached, his expression serious. "Human," he said quietly. "I understand now. You are not simply a cadet. You are something different. We were wrong to underestimate you." Lyra looked at him calmly. Underestimating humans has always been a mistake. Patience, endurance, and observation are powerful tools. We do not show our strength until it is necessary. Today, it was necessary. The Academy had changed. Cadets approached her with respect, their conversations including her perspective. Instructors sought her insight, aware of the depth of understanding she possessed. Lyra's quiet authority had shifted the dynamics of the school. Fear, respect, and admiration now surrounded her, and even those who had once mocked her learned restraint. That evening, Lyra returned to her quarters. She removed the glove, revealing the tattoo once more. It shifted slightly, responding to her touch, and reflecting the events of the day. It reminded her that humanity's survival, endurance, and patient strategy were alive within her. She was a symbol of that legacy, a reminder to the galaxy that humans were not weak, never had been, and should never be underestimated. As she sat quietly reviewing the day's events and planning for the future, a soft chime sounded from her console. A message from Halden appeared. "Cadet Vale, the galaxy has taken notice. Your performance has set a new standard. Prepare for the challenges ahead. Your species has proven its place. Maintain vigilance." Lyra read the message and nodded. She understood clearly. The galaxy had been warned, not through words, but through action. The living tattoo on her hand was proof of humanity's endurance, patience, and capability. It was a reminder that a single human could shift perception, command respect, and influence the galaxy. And it would continue to do so, quietly, patiently, until the galaxy learned that humans were never to be mocked again. The next day, the Academy was abuzz. Cadets moved cautiously. Discussions now included strategies that accounted for human capability. Even Varric, though proud and intelligent, maintained a respectful distance, aware that his assumptions had been shattered. Lyra continued her training, her focus on skill, observation, and patience. Every step she took, every decision she made, reinforced the lesson she had demonstrated. Humans survived, endured, and waited. And when necessary, they acted with precision, control, and authority. The Academy's instructors held private discussions, consulting records, and historical data. Some cadets sought advice from Lyra, seeking understanding and insight. The human presence had transformed the perception of an entire institution. The living tattoo was more than a symbol. It was a tool, a warning, and a testament to centuries of survival, hidden knowledge, and patient preparation. As Lyra prepared for the upcoming cycles, she understood her role clearly. She was not just a student. She was a representative of humanity's legacy, carrying the history, endurance, and strength of her species in a hand that could command fleets, awaken dormant networks, and alter perceptions. The galaxy had learned a lesson through quiet authority, precision, and calm strategy. And Lyra Vale would ensure that the lesson was never forgotten. Even as she slept that night, the tattoo pulsed faintly beneath her skin, a living reminder of the power, patience, and survival of humanity. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were patient, enduring, and capable of actions far beyond expectation. Lyra Vale, the cadet with the living tattoo, had ensured that the galaxy would never mock her species again.